Let's get salty!
Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and we are finally continuing our series taking a look at what the most broken minion in Hearthstone history is. We've gone through 1, 2, 3, and 4 drops, looking throughout the history of Hearthstone, which ones were the most broken per mana, and now we are at 5, and my goodness, at 5, there are some ridiculous minions, and again, we're going to look at primarily unnerfed cards, and also no generated stuff, so the new quest rewards, which would very likely be like the entire top 10 list of 5 drops, do not qualify. It has to be a minion that you can actually put in your deck, and well, let's take a look at what the most broken 5 drops are. And again, let me know in the comments below what you disagree with, what you agree with, what you think is the most broken stuff, because it will all come together at the end of this series where we take a look at the most broken, putting all the mana costs together. And I need your feedback on that, as well as we'll probably do a community poll when we get to that final episode. So let's take a look at the most broken 5 drops. So starting off at number 10, and the fact that this is number 10 for me is ridiculous because this card is so good, but there's so many good 5 drops, and that's Carnivore Cube. 5 mana 4/6 neutral minion. You destroy a friendly minion, and then you summon the death rattle as you summon 2 copies of it. And this has spawned a ton of archetypes. I mean, literally Cube Lock, one of the most prominent decks in Hearthstone history, where you'd copy demons, you like Cube, Doomguard, or a Void Lord, or Mal'Ganis, something like that. But just an incredibly flexible, ridiculously good card. You could play dead it in a hunter and get some ridiculous value. You could dark pact it, you could play a flames it. There's so many great things you could do with the card. It's just fallen off a little bit in recent years. In Wild, it's not the big player it had been for almost its entire run, but still an incredibly powerful card. And the fact it's number 10, man, there's some good cards on this list. At number 9, we have the most recent addition to the list. It's no longer 5 mana. Its life at 5 was very short, but that's Battleground Battlemaster. 5 mana 5/5 neutral minion. Your adjacent minions have Wind Fury, and this card's ridiculous. Even at 6, this card is absolutely insane. You're playing a deck with giants. You murder your opponent. Like what, turn 5? You play it with Conviction. You murder your opponent. And I've been getting this in Arena. It's disgusting there too. The card is ridiculous. Giving Wind Fury alone is pretty good. Giving 2 things Wind Fury, and it's not even a battle cry, it stays on the board. Disgusting. Ridiculous card. Got nerfed extremely quickly, and even at 6 mana, it's a very good card, and I gotta put it on the list. At number 8, you might have forgotten about this card, but this card was absolutely broken out of the gate, and I still think would be busted to this very day, and that's Faceless Corruptor. Right now it's a 4/4, but when it came out, this was a 5 mana 5/4, and Battlecry, you can turn another minion to a copy of it. So it's effectively like a 5 mana 10/8 in Rush. It was like Oasis Surger without having to play the Druid quest. It went into like every deck. It was listed like every deck, because why would you not play this? Any deck that has any token generation whatsoever. It had lackeys back then. I mean, Galakron Shaman liked it because you just, the 2/1 invoke things or a totem. It's just broken. All the odd decks love this card, and doesn't really see much play anymore at a 4/4, but at a 5/4, just a ridiculous stat line. And when we all saw this card, we're like, this is going to get nerfed. This is broken. This is ridiculous. And yeah, it got nerfed. It was broken. It was ridiculous, and still sees play in like Shutterwalk decks because it has like the copy effect. You can copy Shutterwalk, copy another thing, and you can do the whole bounce stuff. So it's still a very good card, but as a 5/4, absolutely disgusting. At number 7, we have a Warlock Demon Doomguard. 5 mana 5/7 charge minion. Battlecry, discard 2 cards from your hand. And well, this card has been in every discard Warlock, Zoo Warlock ever, because it's just a 5 mana 5/7 charge. And over time, the discard downside became an upside with cards like a Hand of Gul'dan. You have like the Silverware Golem, Fist of Jaraxxus. Like, you play this, there's not a downside of playing it. You just get more stuff. It's broken, ridiculous. And it also fit into combo decks like Cube Lock and other decks like that. It's just in like a ton of different Warlock decks throughout the history of time, and it's still very playable in 2021. This is a classic card. It was eventually Hall of Famed, and I just have to put on the list this high because it's just been in so many different Warlock decks, so good, and charge is so powerful because you can actually kill your opponent. Your opponent, you know, if they don't have a taunt, they can't stop the charge damage, and it can be quite ridiculous. At number 6, we have a card that was nerfed and then reverted and was very crazy and wild until recently, and that's Raza the Chained. 5 mana 5/5 priest legendary minion. If your deck contains no duplicates, set your hero power to 0. And well, you play it with Shadow Reaper Anduin, pew pew pew, you got infinite pings. To be fair, this card wasn't extremely powerful until Shadow Reaper Anduin came out. They kind of go together, but without that combo, without Raza fueling that, you don't have one of the best decks in Hearthstone history. Raza Anduin dominated standard when it was there until it was nerfed, and even then, after it was nerfed, it was still playable. In Wild, when it was your hero power cost 1, it was still playable, and then the second was reverted back to 0. It was like a tier 1 deck until, you know, the most recent seed lock times, and well, if that gets nerfed at some point, I think we could see Raza Anduin definitely return to a tier 1 deck, and just, it's super powerful. It's a crazy effect, and a lot of people really love the Raza Priest. I played my fair share. I got Golden Priest on NA and EU playing this because I just quite enjoyed it back in the day. At number 5, we have, well, like the coolest, most perfect design card, kind of. It's like everybody's favorite, Zilliax, the 5 mana 3/2 neutral mech. It's got like Divine Shield, Magnetic Rush, Taunt, Lifesteal. It's like the Swiss Army knife of cards. You don't even need to magneticize this card to another mech to make it good. It makes it great, but you could just run this as a standalone card. It's a taunt, it's heal, it's removal. Just one of the most flexible cards ever. It fit into countless standard decks throughout its entire standard run and still pops up in Wild every once in a while. Again, it's hard to talk about Wild in this current meta because it's so ridiculous, but if we ignore seed lock times, Zilliax is definitely a meta player and just one of the most favorite, most beloved cards. It's not the most OP card in the world, but it's incredibly powerful, incredibly flexible, and just for the fact that it's fit into so many different decks, I gotta put it this high on the list. At number 4, we have a card that no longer costs 5 mana, although if you hit it with an Octobot, it certainly can, and that's Jandis Barov, the dual class Mage Rogue Legendary. It's a 2/1 minion, and then you summon 2 random 5-drops and you choose one, and basically one will die to 1 point of damage, the other one won't. And this card has elements of mind games, like which one do I pick? Maybe I actually pick the better one and you're gonna hit the wrong thing. But overall, it's just a ridiculous stat bomb. With Rogue in particular, you have like Shadow Step and Tenwu bounce effects to like keep playing this over and over. And in standard, after the rotation, the 5-drop pool got so incredibly powerful that this card was just broken in every Rogue deck, and really good at Mage, but Mage can't utilize it quite as well. You have like Conjurer's Calling and it did some stuff, but overall, Jandis just, you could literally win the game by just playing it on curve. This was one of these cards that was so powerful, you play Jandis on 5, you often could just win. And that's hard to do for any card in Hearthstone. And Jandis literally could swing the game, could win the game on the spot. So for me, I gotta put it at number 4. Really very strong card. And even at 6, again, you're like, wow, that was 5. It's still really good at 6. And yeah, still 6 mana, still a very strong card. At number 3, we're getting into the heavy hitters. These last 3, again, I swear you could interchange them in any order, but I'm gonna go with Gadgetzan Auctioneer. Originally 5 mana, now 6, and sees tons of play at 6. You know, 5 mana 4/4. After you cast a spell, draw a card. And well, when you have 0 mana spells, you can draw your deck. Miracle Rogue, you have Ignite stuff. Like, imagine this card today at 5 mana. How insane that would be, because at 6, it's still very good. It's still like Kibler's like, why is it the core set? And it's at 6 mana. Imagine if it was still 5, and playing it in Classic, it's pretty absurd with like Conceal and all of that. It's just a ridiculously good card. You can draw your entire deck not too difficultly, especially with the cards they've made today. Like a 5 mana Auctioneer never existed with all the cheap spells we see today, all the mana cheat we see today. I can just imagine what it could have done at 5, and it's just got to be high up on the list, and it's neutral, so it could just go into so many different decks. At number 2, we have another neutral minion that started off as unplayable garbage, and then coding was changed in the game, and it broke wild. Naga Witch, 5 mana 5/5, your cards cost 5. It's a constant effect, and this didn't seem that great, but then the rules changed on giants, and all of a sudden your giant that would discount down from 5, so they would all cost 0. So you play it in Warlock, life tap, draw a bunch of giants, slam it down, win the game. Hunter did the same strategy, Druid kind of tried to do the same strategy, but overall Naga Warlock literally was just broken. We all know about the Reddit ad that was taken out to try and get it nerfed and all this. It was just an absurdly busted card. The only reason I'm not putting it number 1 is because it was only busted in Wild, never good in Standard. For me, it felt unintended, like it was never supposed to happen, but they didn't really want to fix it because they didn't, you know, they don't want to admit to the mistake, and then they eventually put it to 8 mana where it's unplayable. So that's why it's not number 1, but the effect is probably the most broken on this list, I will admit, but its run was shorter, and again, it was only in Wild, so you could definitely argue it number 1. I would totally understand, but for me, I'm going to put it at number 2. And before we get to number 1, I'm just going to go through a bunch of honorable mentions because there's so many insane good 5 drops. We'll just run through a bunch. Giggling Adventure, Quartermaster, Vilespine Slayer. You got Antique Healbot, Gladebound Adept, Oasis Surger, Twilight Runner, Rottenness Drake, Trampling Rhino, Mizaki, Talon Forgeling, Draconin Operative, Lyra the Sunshard, Dynamatic, Azure Drake, Faceless Manipulator, Grim Patron, Fungalmancer, Possessed Lackey, and there's just so many more you can mention, but that's what I'm going to go with. And then number 1, for me, this card has been meta the second it was put into the game. In Naxxramas, it has been in countless decks, aggro, combo, control, you name it, it's been in every single archetype. It still sees play today, and that's Loatheb. The 5-mana 5/5 neutral legendary, battle cry, your opponent's spells cost 5 more the next turn. This locks people out. This is such a hard thing to accomplish in Hearthstone. You play Loatheb with some giants, your opponent is screwed. You play an aggro deck, swarm the board, you play Loatheb, your opponent is screwed. You do a bunch of mana cheat with a Luna's Pocket Galaxy and play a bunch of minions and you Loatheb, your opponent is screwed. It's one of the ultimate disruption cards that has seen play throughout its entire run, is incredibly powerful, and it's the most busted 5-drop for me. It's just unbelievably good, unbelievably powerful, and the fact that it can basically slip into any archetype in the game, period. That's saying something. How many cards can you say that? You can't say that about Naga, that's for sure. Loatheb, for me, the most broken 5-drop of all time. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think, what you agree with, disagree with, and yeah, hit that sub button, hit that like button. We'll have the 6-drop list before you know it. Enjoy the video. Please like and subscribe. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.